Hello, and welcome to System Mastery, the podcast where we beat a dead horse 1d6 damage at a time. Every episode, my buddy John and I read a new, by which I mean very old, RPG system. We attempt to understand it, see if we could find ourselves playing it, and try to get at the meat of what the designers intended. We strive to really gain an understanding of each system so that we comprehensively provide a solid framework that you can use as a tool to help select which games are right for your time and friends. Oh, hold on. I'm being handed a note. I see here what we actually do is just dump on spelling errors and bad prose. This week, we tackle Steve Jackson's Car Wars, the game that redefines driving as a series of complex charts. Let's get to it. But what's even happening in that picture? Is he sitting in a car you have to lie down in?
I think he's sitting in the back seat and took out the front seat and he's driving from the back seat.
Oh, okay. It looks like he's in a chaise lounge designed to drive a car.
And, well, I mean, considering he doesn't have any apparent windows or doors, he may, in fact, just be in a chaise lounge.
That would be awesome. Like, we're describing the cover, by the way, folks, of Car Wars Deluxe Edition, a Steve Jackson game, where a man in a weird helmet, and very complicated ankle pads is driving, like a tenth of a car?
Yeah. Just 1/10 of a car.
I mean, I get that it's a cutaway. It's just, I like the image of him sitting on a little chaise lounge that has wheels.
Yeah, but the fact that his legs are just about fully extended in order for him to hit the pedals is amazing.
No, it really looks like he's at the end of like a rowing machine motion. Like he's like pushing way out. He's going to haul himself back in, and hopefully he doesn't take any chin damage.
Well, yeah, that's how you exercise in the Car Wars universe, since everything is cars.
It's all rowing machines. Okay, so this is Steve Jackson's Car Wars.
Yeah.
We've actually had a request or two to get to this, which is unusual because, as far as I can tell, it's not a role-playing game. It's close. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's character progression and a little tiny bit of character creation.
A little bit. I mean, mostly the real interesting thing in this game, right off the bat, is that instead of really creating a character like you would in any other game, mostly you're creating a car. The car is your character more than the guy driving it is.
It's kind of like the Cars RPG based on the Pixar movie.
Yeah, that famous Cars RPG.
Yeah, which is called Cars Not at War.
Yeah, Cars friendly.
Just hanging around in a weird city that has human amenities but no humans.
Yeah, super creepy.
Where did they go? Why does that one car have a mattress strapped to its roof? Who is that for?
Where have all the cowboys gone?
Or the cowboy-shaped cars? Wait, they're not really cowboy-shaped. They're
more
like,
I don't know.
They're more cowboy-themed.
Driving a cowboy-shaped car. Like, I guess if the Transformers movie goes to Vegas, uses that machine come to life thing on that cowboy on Fremont Street, then maybe.
And then it turns into a car instead of into a transformer.
Yeah, because it's already in a human form, so it turns into a car.
What are we talking about?
Wait a minute, what are we doing?
Okay.
Car Wars, that's right.
If it sounds like we're going off on random digressions just too, it's because this whole book is 68 pages long. And is,
probably about 50 to 60 pages of that is charts. It's 58 pages long and 60 pages of it are charts. That's right.
Let's go through the setting of Car Wars.
Yeah, so it does have a little timeline. There is a background here. You aren't just doing a war game.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the far-flung year of 2035.
Yeah, 2035.
Our timeline starts in that most mystical of dates of the year 2000.
Yeah, I forget when this book was written, but it's got the stink of the 80s all over it.
Oh, it is 80s. It's like 85, I think this one is.
Yeah, I mean,
the deluxe edition is 85 at least.
Yeah, the deluxe edition, which comes with even bigger shoulder pads. Very much a product of the 80s.
This deluxe edition just snorted a line of coke and wants to vote for Ronald Reagan.
It can do that as soon as it's done listening to the Thompson Twins.
So yeah, you can tell this book is also going to be great because the inside cover is just charts. Like, before you even get to the rules or anything else, the first page is a bunch of reference charts, which I love. It knows what it wants to be, and by God, it lets you know that right from the start.
Well, it also knows it has 80s era binding, which means you're going to be able to pull that cover off with a light tap. and so it's going to immediately become a DM screen.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
This is, it's set in the United States, North America, 2035. The great decline of civilization has occurred. It happened because of food resource loss.
Well, it's, because apparently this is all about how, I don't know, the government is terrible. They were gonna, federalize the ownership of all gas and, oil.
Right, but, and that happens because of a grain blight, which I'm sure you all remember occurring in 2012.
Oh, no. We had already had, issues with, because back then we had a lot of people saying we were going to hit peak oil by 2000 and that we would run out. This whole thing goes off the notion that we are going into a Mad Max style level of, oh my god, oil. And
as you can imagine, when societies run out of gas, the first thing they do is build a bunch of arenas all over the place and race cars in them.
Yeah, obviously.
That's just like in Mad Max, we understand that to be the case. That if you are out of gas, the first thing you do is build cars that run on gas and then shoot at other cars that run on gas and ignite flamethrowers that burn gas to burn cars running on gas for the entertainment of the masses.
Yeah. No, that's totally what you do.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. It would be the same thing like, say, if we were in the middle of the worst drought ever and everyone was just dumping water on top of themselves for no reason.
Having a big water fight. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about how this could work in modern society, because obviously at this point gas has become a total luxury. So if we just had, say, for example, a reality show today where people just eat huge heaps of caviar as fast as they can, like just scooping handfuls of caviar into their mouths and going, this is entertaining to you. That's about what Car Wars would be. Also, if they died from eating the caviar.
Yeah.
Well, I
mean,
Car Wars is very fatal. Yeah.
But the timeline is because the government attempted to take all of the oil and natural gas, Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana go ahead and secede from the Union.
Oh no, not Oklahoma. Please stay with us.
So they leave and we're like, hey man, stop that. And we send some forces and apparently those 3 states are able to beat away the combined forces of America.
That makes sense to me, because if you think about it, if you take away Oklahoma, we lose our vital national resource of people that are inordinately proud of living in Oklahoma.
It's true. No one fights fiercer for Oklahoma than Oklahomians.
Or whatever. Oklahomos. That's the one.
There we go. There, we found it. All right. And then we had a giant grain blight.
In 2012, I'm sure everyone remembers.
Yeah, and then everyone was starving, and then apparently we had a bunch of motorcycle gangs, and then anyone who wasn't living in a city was essentially fucked. And then, for no good reason, people were like, you know what sounds great? Shooting each other in our cars. And then that solved all of our problems, and again, it's just a big anti-government thing because they're like, well, as soon as people that were regular citizens were able to arm their cars, we stopped those gangs from happening.
But it's not that dissimilar from the plot of The Running Man, where it's like, okay, society collapsed, there's heavy militarization, people need bread and circuses, so bizarre arena combat. Gladiatorial, crazy arena combat. Why not? That makes sense. That adds up. 2 + 2 = Running Man.
Yeah, and your big prize for winning one of these arena combats, if you're a starting character, is you get to keep the shitty starter car that they give you.
Yeah, to play this game with your players, what you want to do is start them in a very beginning junior level arena entry, which is a car that's worth between about $6,000 and $7,000 in 1985 money.
Yeah, and they generally say that you'll have a stock car, and you can swap out, a couple of the weapons maybe, but mostly all of the stock cars are going to be the same.
And you drive into an arena, and you have to stay in the arena for at least 30 seconds. And if you failed to do that, then you're out, and you have to try again some other time. If you succeed, you get to keep the car. At 30 seconds, you can literally turn and drive out of the arena.
Yeah.
That's because this game takes place on such a granular time scale that 30 seconds is pretty likely to result in either your winning or your car's destruction.
Yeah, the amount of movement and shooting and everything you do, turns are like 1/10 of a second long. So you're going to have 300 turns before you can actually even try to leave the arena?
One of the things I found interesting was one of the weapons, we'll get to the weapons in a bit, but one of the weapons, the smoke cloud that you can drop, says that smoke clouds last for 1 minute, which is an irrelevant amount of time, as no car combat lasts that long.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, after a minute, you will either have been driving so far away that it is now miles and miles behind you, or it's going to be like, okay, well, I just swerve around it and ignore that small area. Same thing with dropping, like, mines or any of the, like, caltrops or anything like that. Better look at it and go, all right, if you're having a race such that you're in a narrow zone and it would be really difficult to avoid these, then I could see that being an interesting weapon, but most of it either takes place in an arena combat, or you're fighting out in, like, the rural areas of America against motorcycle gangs, and if someone just drops some mines on the field, you're like, alright, well, I guess I go around them, and we're done here.
I guess it's supposed to be kind of like Mario Kart, where, you know, you drop your mines, but then you have to remember where you dropped your mines when you make your next lap of the kart arena. Like, oh shit, those are my mines. I can't drive over my own mines.
Yeah.
That's part of it. The other thing is that the scenario in there is defending a city. There's a scenario in the back that's like, oh, you live in Crap Junction, and there's these shitty gang dudes and stupid policemen, and then a bunch of people arrive to kill you. And to give you an idea, when I was saying earlier this isn't really a role-playing game, what it was saying is one player should represent the town. The other player should represent the bad guys. Have fun!
Yeah. It really does feel a lot more like a straight-up just war game rather than an RPG. But it makes for interesting conversation, though, on what specifically will make an RPG, because you do have a character, you do have character progression.
Yeah, there's progression. There's a skill system in there.
Yeah, it's not particularly nuanced or deep.
I think it's got some interesting build to it. We should talk about that. Okay, so let's build a character real quick. Let's start with the basics. I want to make a guy for this game. What do I know about myself? Well, I occupy 3 squares.
You are 150 pounds.
I wish I weighed exactly 150 pounds. And, let's see, I can carry 6 grenades. Yeah. I also have 30 skill points to spend on starting skills, and starting skills cost
10.
And
so
you start
instead of having 3 skill points, you have 30 for no reason.
Yes. Well, there is partially a reason, and we'll get to that. You also start with a level 1 in running, which is the equivalent of having 10 points in running, because everyone can run. Just like how everyone is 150 pounds.
Yeah, now, obviously.
Skills include things like driving a motorcycle, driving a truck, driving a bigger truck, piloting a helicopter, shooting guns from a car, shooting guns without a car, and punching dudes. And then I think the last one is fixing a car. So it's a very simple skill system.
You also have medicine just in case someone is hurt and you want to play out you fixing them.
So the reason that your skill points cost 10, or sometimes it costs as much as 30 to raise a rank of a skill, is because when you use a skill, you get points in that skill. Or you get points to spend, but you can only spend them on that skill. So for example, if you beat up a guy, you get some beat up a guy points that can only be used to spend on XP for beating up a guy. So it's got kind of a Nintendo Final Fantasy II style experience system with a twist. There's also general skill points you get for achieving adventure goals.
Which is basically just your end of adventure bonus. So, you know, it's if you win an arena, if you are particularly brave, or you escape an ambush, or anything that's just you did something cool, you get generic skill points you can spend.
Yeah. And your character has 2 hit points, basically. Because,
pretty much,
if you take 1 wound, you're injured. If you take 2 wounds, you're unconscious, and a 3rd hit will kill you. So that's all you have. And you can't get more of those, although you can wear body armor, which gives you 3 more, no penalty attached hit points.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you really probably should be doing that.
You really should, unless it makes your car weigh too much. Huh. Because body armor is one of the things you have to factor into the extremely detailed structure of how to build a car.
Yeah, let's get into that, because we just described how to build a character.
Oh, are we done?
And that was basically your skills, and you're done.
Yep. You also get some gear. I mean, we're going to talk about gear.
But the gear is pretty much making your car. The car is the character that you make.
Yeah.
In a lot of other RPGs, you would have your strength, your wisdom, your charisma, and so on. In this game, you have body size, or power plant, or your suspension. And instead of putting your stats and whatever into things that you would have for a character, really what you're doing is putting it into these 6 stats for a car, but raising those stats, instead of just being a thing that you do, you have like weight limits and everything costs a certain amount of money.
There's hard points. There's a set number of weapons you're allowed to affix to a side of a vehicle. Depending on the type of vehicle you have, you can have X number of weapons pointing in X different directions. And you can have a targeting computer or a better targeting computer. And the list just goes on and on. It's similar to Ninjas and Super Spies in the Palladium game has the rules for building a super vehicle. The difference being that those are just bonkers nonsense, and this actually forces you to really, really... I don't want to give this game too much credit, but it forces you to really deeply think about constructing your vehicle.
Yeah, because you can look at it and go, well, I really want, this weapon or this armor. I want to have some good tires and suspension because I want to be able to make sharp turns, because maybe I'm using side-mounted weapons, so I want to be able to, swerve my car and shoot from the side on someone.
I know someone's going to shoot lasers at me, so I know I'm going to need to bring some smoke launchers, because everyone knows that lasers can't penetrate smoke.
Obviously.
Duh.
So, there's a lot of weight ratios and money ratios and everything like that, and it ends up being that there isn't in this game, I will say that, all things being equal as far as how much money you have to spend, until you get into the ridiculous levels of cash, there is actually a reason to go into certain different vehicles.
Absolutely.
Like going into a motorcycle versus a regular car versus, say, a truck or some sort of bus or whatever. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. And sure, you could go, well, I get an 18-wheeler with a tank gun on top, and I just sit around destroying everything, but that will cost you a metric fuck ton of money, and you just won't be able to move or do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So there is trade-offs, even at the exceptionally high level of money.
Mm-hmm. So basically, if you want to build the generic car, you can choose from a list of stock cars and then modify them. To do this, you have to choose the chassis of the vehicle, the type of the vehicle. So, for example, you can choose a luxury car, and then you can choose a light, medium, or heavy chassis for it. Chassis give you different amounts of armor and different amounts of hard points, but they also weigh different amounts, so you have to be careful with that. Then you select a power plant, and a power plant has something called a power factor, and the power factor is measured in the thousands. So, for example, a heavy engine has a power factor of around 2,750. You can use that to control how much weight is on the car. And there's an interesting... You have to actually do some division in here when you're building your car. If the power factor minus the weight of your car is less than a quarter of the weight of your car, then your car's too slow, and you have to get a different power engine or cut weight. And then if it's more than that, if it's between a third and half the weight of your car, then you get to accelerate at 5 miles an hour, and then 10 miles an hour, and ultimately 15 miles an hour per time segment. And time segments are... I'm getting way too deep, aren't I?
Yeah, no, this, as you can tell, there is a lot of fiddly chart shenanigans that go into this, and each thing that you could put onto your car, power plant being one of them, has this incredibly deep, this is what you have to pay, this is what it does, this is what it lets you do in these increments, and here's a giant chart that shows all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I will at least say that I'm glad they went with a power plant instead of you are actually burning gas for the later edition cars.
Oh, yes, that's true. Yeah, as if the world is trying to move on.
Yeah. And
they keep inventing new electric cars and then shooting them to hell in arenas.
Oh, yeah. That's what you do. You figure out how to make a super awesome battery for a car and then blow that motherfucker up.
I guess so. So, yeah, every single element of the car is this granular. So you have to... although, when I say that... I'm being a little misleading. Every single element that they included about the car is very, very granular. So, for example, power plants, suspension, tires, chassis, armor plating, weapon hardpoints, steering equipment, but they leave out some things about cars that you would consider normal. For example, there are no brake rules in the game beyond just maneuverability, so you can't buy better brakes for your car.
Yeah, pretty much everyone just brakes at the exact same amount of speed.
Yeah, the one thing, and if you brake too fast, you can actually crash. There's control rules for you fishtailing and so on if you try to brake too hard. Of course there is, because you can't just do anything in this game without consulting 5 charts.
No, honestly, even just drifting to the left a bit gives you you have to roll on your control.
Yeah, and what's your maneuverability class, and what are the penalties associated with that, and which phase of which initiative step is it?
Yeah.
There's something else I thought was interesting that's just a weird omission from a game like this. I read this thing cover to cover, no turbo boosts.
No, there really isn't any sort of nitro system or even I'm going to take some maneuverability penalty or whatever and do like a pedal to the metal move.
There's a little bit, you can accelerate beyond the max speed of your vehicle, but it starts to fuck up your car very fast, very fast. Like your first initiative step, you roll, and it either says your engine blows up, or your engine's about to blow up, or nothing happens. Those are your 3 choices. Literally, you roll, and you roll 2d6, because the whole game's d6s.
Yeah, well, of course it is. It's Steve Jackson game.
Yeah, he's never met a die he didn't like that was a d6. So you roll 2d6, and on a 2 through 7, nothing happens. On an 8 through 10, your engine will blow up soon, but hasn't blown up yet. On a 10, 11, or 12, your engine blows up.
Yeah, now, of course you get penalties to this.
If you roll that, your engine will blow up soon, but doesn't blow up, then next time you roll, it's a 2 through 7, nothing happens. 8 through 12, your engine blows up.
Yeah.
That's the way that works. So, it's really, really dangerous to redline your engine. So there's no turbo boosting, which is weird. I mean, I'm just saying that because, you look at this book, and you think, oh, Car Wars. Yeah, I've seen this around. I know it's had some video games. It's gotta be super, important because it's kind of the progenitor of years of car combat stuff.
Oh yeah, there's even a new edition of Car Wars now. They're still making this game.
Nothing wrong with that. But I mean, beyond Car Wars, Twisted Metal.
Oh yeah.
What's it, Vigilante 8? There was a whole series of games like that on the PlayStation, and pretty much starting around the PlayStation and then continuing on. But even before that, remember Rock and Roll Racing?
Yeah.
I mean, all those games feature one thing for certain though, which is nitro boosts. I can't believe they've got to be in the new edition of this.
Maybe nitro boosts weren't a thing until the 90s. No one really knew that existed as a thing you could do.
Maybe that's true, yeah. I'm trying to remember now.
I mean, I don't know fuck all about cars, so...
Well, no, okay, nitro boosts are real, but they don't work the way that they do in video games, where you press A and go faster briefly.
They don't work the way they do in the video games.
Yeah.
First of all, sunlight is bullshit. And, wait a minute,
we're talking
about vampires.
But also, lasers can fire through smoke, no problem, because they're just some light.
Yeah, but... People don't know about that.
People in the
80s don't know from lasers.
My guess is that they needed to figure out a way to make lasers fair.
Yeah, well, the fact that they're also we have this dwindling society and resources are super rare, we don't know what we're doing, but we have high-tech future weapons, and you're like, how did you get the laser to work?
Although that's the only one. That's the only high-tech. The rest of them are all even the ones with fancy names, like the Big 6 shooter or whatever it is, it's just 6 rockets that are next to each other.
Yeah, no, it's odd that you would get to a point where you have lasers and you go, alright, you've obviously made a power plant in your car that's powerful enough to shoot a laser does actual, real, appreciable damage, and yet, we are still having issues with, oil and things. How did we not just fix all of our problems with this?
Well, it's not that. I mean, if you're like me and you're an obsessive military nerd, then you know that we have lasers now, and we've had lasers for a long time. They aren't just red beams like on Star Wars.
No.
They shoot heat, and there's really cool footage of them lighting, drones on fire, from a long distance. And in the 70s and 80s, the Russians actually built a laser tank, which is the coolest thing in the world, and it exists. It's real. They built a tank. It looks like it's just got a bunch of searchlights on it, and all it's supposed to do is blind enemy sensor systems by flashing a really bright laser at them. And it worked, it's just that's useless and prohibitively expensive. So, lasers have been around for forever. They had cool lasers in the 80s. So, I mean, I understand, but you're right. Building one that would actually melt another car
but this is just, I shoot a beam.
And it does some damage.
And it does damage.
It does 2 dice of damage to you. Yeah, that's very different.
It's not, I have a concentrated heat beam that I get to focus on a car. It's, I shoot a fucking G.I. Joe laser at you.
Agree with me, though, that they should have a concentrated heat beam that you can shoot at a car, because that's awesome.
They do. It's called a flamethrower.
It's not concentrated. That's a diffuse heat beam.
Ha! Nerds!
Okay, so basically you build a car and put hard points on it and stick weapons on the hard points, and then it's extremely complicated to shoot anything.
Yeah, that seemed really weird to me.
You never hit!
There's a lot of little fiddly things that they talk about. So you're like, alright, I look at a gun, and this gun says, its normal shooting ability is 7. I have to roll a 7 or higher in order to hit something.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, great. That means most of the time I will hit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have anything in the gunner skill, then you add whatever level of gunner you have, you add that on.
You subtract
so you'd be a 6 or higher, or a 5 or higher,
mm-hmm.
or whatever. But then you look at what you end up getting a penalty to your roll, and it's everything. Like, anything that you do subtracts from anything.
Is that car moving?
Are you moving?
That's 2 penalties right there.
Are you trying to shoot and he's not, like, literally right next to you?
Yeah, there's a point-blank bonus you can get, but every single other range is a penalty of some kind. The odds of hitting something are generally boiled down to about 1 in 25 or so.
Yeah, because essentially you need to roll a 12, because then you'll just hit.
Yeah. Actually, no.
No, that's true.
You automatically miss on a 2, but you don't automatically hit on a 12.
Yeah, so, if you are at any range that isn't just point blank, you're -1. If you have, if you're moving at all, you're going to be negative. If they're moving at all, you're going to be negative. If they are swerving at any bit, like doing any sort of maneuvers, you're going to be negative.
Is there a difference in elevation that's going to give you a penalty? Is it a faster car than you that's going to give you a penalty? Are there any conditions in the air that would impede your visibility? For example, a spray of paint or smoke.
Is it nighttime?
That's going to give you a penalty.
Is it foggy?
Yeah, all these things are going to give you penalties.
That's going to be a penalty.
And let's give you an idea. A 7 is actually a fairly accurate gun in this game's weapon system. A lot of the guns have, at least a few of them have accuracies of 9, which means on average you have to roll a 9 or higher on 2d6 to hit, which means you have about a 1 in 5 chance of hitting your target.
Yeah, and even the most accurate thing in the game is a 5.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that is that.
If they had car combat and it was on average you hit on a 1 in 5 chance, and that's what's entertaining society, well, okay, you know what? I'm gonna accept that because of the general scores of soccer games. I'm gonna be alright. We played for 2 hours and no one scored. What do you know? Our accuracy is 1 in 20.
Well, I mean, at least when you look at it, makes it so that the time scale makes sense. So you're like, alright, I've been shooting at this guy for apparently 4 seconds, and I hit him once. Yeah. Alright, that sort of makes sense.
That adds up. That's fair enough. I was gonna say, otherwise, they're so wildly inaccurate that, honestly, these future combat games should have, like, the Benny Hill theme playing. Just zipping around until shooting at each other as if that's what's going to kill them. It's not. What's going to kill them is that the cars are so, badly maneuverable that they're eventually going to crash or jackknife their super truck or just run into a wall, or they'll redline their engine too hard and blow up.
Yeah, my favorite thing is that, so you get a penalty to your shot the faster you go.
Mm-hmm.
So if both of the cars that are shooting are going 80 miles per hour, then you're both -4 to hit because you're going that fast, and -4 because he's going that fast, which means you're pretty much incapable of hitting anything while you move at freeway speed.
Right, which means the best thing you can do, as we mentioned very early in the podcast, is to build a super truck, take the wheels off it, and put a bunch of cannons up there.
Oh yeah. No, the best thing to do in Car Wars is to not have a car and actually just have a cannon.
Or a building, because there's rules for buildings, and you can just build yourself a nice building with very heavy walls, put a bunch of guns on it, and be like, yeah, I am entering this building in the grand car fight.
Yeah, it's sort of amusing to me how they're like, yeah, and then these biker gangs would ruin everyone. You're like, really? Because I'm pretty sure just one dude sitting up on, like, a building with a gun would kill all of them.
Yeah. And then go zipping past him, unable to bring their guns to bear on him, because that kind of control would require them to make a bunch of maneuverability checks and smack into the building.
Skidding out and die.
It's not that bad, but it is pretty bad. It's sort of funny how inaccurate everything is. This game is meant to be played with miniatures that come with the game. They're a bunch of little tokens, and they're about, I'm not sure why I'm doing that with my fingers, visual medium. They're usually about a 1/2 inch by 1 inch. That's how big a car is, or they're...
Yeah, you'll generally have a grid that you're playing on, so that you know it's kind of like a graph paper type grid.
Yeah, it comes with a bunch of little tiny... It's very graph paper because the average size of one of the grids on it is a 1/4 inch.
Yeah. So you basically get these little cardboard rectangles and you do car fights on some graph paper.
Mm-hmm.
It is... I imagine it would be super awesomely popular for, like, kids in high school to play this. Because you could just bust this shit out when you were bored in a class somewhere without any preparation.
It feels a lot to me like someone watched two kids playing with trucks and was like, man, if only that had 5,000 rules.
If only there was a chart for everything.
It's just, I could just see some guy, Steve Jackson, I could just see Steve Jackson, who I have no idea what he looks like or what kind of guy he is.
I'm pretty sure he's a big beardy weirdo. I don't know if he actually is, but I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild stab in the dark.
Guess he looks like Bruce Greenwood.
I'm pretty sure he looks like Bruce Valanche.
George R.R. Martin, one of those guys.
You know.
There's a type. Alright, so sure, we're gonna guess he's one of those.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he looks like, I don't know, you.
Oh, fair enough. My beard's a little more under control, but otherwise I can cop to that.
Yeah, beardo.
It's a little more under control than one of those wild Alan Moore style beards that we're discussing. Okay, so if I could just see him sitting on a park bench behind two kids in a park, and they've got some toy trucks, and they're firing lasers at each other and making pew pew noises, and you can just see the steam rising out of his beard, and he's like, they're doing it wrong. That truck would have missed that other truck. Oh, I'll show them. I'll show them all.
Yeah, the little kid just turns the truck around and goes, and I shoot you. He's, oh, no, if he was going at that speed, he would have spun out. Where's my verisimilitude?
Just furiously jotting in a notebook.
Just coming up to them, children, I have some rules that you need to go by, and parents running up, get away from my children! No, you don't understand, they're playing with the trucks wrong!
It's okay, Mommy, Santa's just explaining how trucks work. Again, I assume. He might just be fit and trim. We don't know.
He could be just the nicest, most
professional-looking
guy.
I assume he's a very nice guy because I enjoy a lot of Steve Jackson's work. I've said it before, but I think Toon is a great game. It's stupid and fun, but it's the only game I've ever seen with D6 percentile tables in it.
So, it's got that going for it.
That's one thing. Absolutely. So, no complaints there. Steve Jackson, if you're listening to this, and you're not, we love you, and not this game, though. I mean, presumably you got way better at writing this thing after 1985.
Yeah, I don't know. It has definitely sparked my interest to go look up what the current edition of Car Wars looks like.
Or to check out any of the long history of Car Wars video games. Not the offshoots, your Twisted Metals and so on, but the actual Car Wars games.
Yeah.
Because I've had friends swear by that old one. I've never tried it. But
no.
And at this point, it's one of those games that's like TIE Fighter, where you're like, yeah, I remember TIE Fighter. That was great. That was the best game. And then you try and load it, and your computer's like, you are attempting to load TIE Fighter. Would you like me to get you a retirement community brochure?
Yeah.
Perhaps you have a dusty Amiga in your garage that can run this.
So, in addition to the ridiculous cars and buildings and things, it does have rules for pedestrians.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just like to say, my other wonderful thing that I love in this book is because cars have all of these, like, you've got X amount of squares worth of space and this much weight. People also have X amount of things they can carry, but it's measured in grenade equivalents.
Yes, it's grenade equivalents. Your character can carry 6 grenades or grenade equivalents.
Yeah, like, what is this? A flamethrower. It is 4 grenade equivalents. I'm like, really? I'm pretty sure 4 grenades can fit into a tighter space than a flamethrower.
That's absolutely true. Flamethrowers are huge. I mean, they're a big backpack. Just the backpack alone can hold dozens of grenades.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me that they were like, you can hold 6 grenades worth of things, also a flamethrower.
Maybe in the future, grenades are like watermelon sized.
Yes, that's right. They all have miniature power plants, and that's why they're awesome.
Like maybe like water balloons and you have to actually get one of those like catapult extender things to launch your grenade. Of course, that's also going to be 1 grenade equivalent.
Yeah, they have tripod machine guns are 5 grenades worth. And I don't... What...
Couldn't you just hang a bunch of grenades from I understand that that's because this is a war game. Again, really is a war game, so it just makes sense. But that's so off the mark of what, like, flows mechanically in my mind. Like I go, flamethrower. How big is a flamethrower? Well, it's as big as 4 grenades. Nope.
So 2 grenade equivalents is the grenade launcher, And I have to wonder, if I put a grenade in the grenade launcher, does that count as carrying an extra grenade? Do I get to cheat the system? Or does the grenade in the grenade launcher also count for one of my grenade equivalents?
Yeah, I was okay with the notion that a human can reasonably carry 6 grenades. And it's not because a human couldn't carry more. A human could carry way more than 6 grenades. It's just that why would you? We're looking at a picture of a girl in this, and she's completely covered in Liefeld-style pouches and big puffy vest items. And I would like to think that even though I can't see a grenade on her, I can see at least 12 points about where she could attach a grenade.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's definitely got a pistol in her hand, so that's one grenade.
There's one grenade. I'm assuming that big puffy vest counts as a grenade.
Her giant puffy inflatable boots are probably 2 grenades.
Her huge janitor-style key ring, that's definitely at least 1 grenade.
And her giant number 9 earrings are probably at least 1 grenade.
Oh, let's go back to those boots real quick, because, oh my god, did she kill and defoot the tire guy, the Michelin tire man? Because that's what she's wearing.
That is essentially it. She has cut the legs off of that guy and is wearing them as clothing.
Yeah.
This is the post-apocalypse.
That looks like Strong-Sad after cutting himself.
Yeah.
So,
that is some...
Going into the 2000s and dark while we're doing it.
There you go. I'll say it looks like an obese person trying out bondage for the first time.
Ooh, okay, yeah,
there we
I
go.
can see that. That's good. Again, visual medium.
Okay. That's okay. We paint a picture with our words here.
And that picture is of a tightly dressed pork loin. So
that's good.
Okay, so once you get out on the road and you're shooting at each other, you need to know things like how fast your car goes. And I would love to tell you, dear listeners, how fast a car goes, but it's stupid complicated. You do it by phases, and if your car is fast, it goes in all the phases, and if your car is slow, it only goes in a few of the phases. And during each one of those phases, it can accelerate either 5 or 10 or 15 miles per hour of acceleration during that phase, unless it is a truck, in which case it can only do 2.5 or 5 miles an hour, depending on how heavy it is. No, I'm sorry, they'll go the same speed. It's either 2.5 miles an hour, unless they're going more than 25 miles an hour already, at which point they can do 5 miles an hour per phase increase of speed gain. And at that point, they have to make a maneuverability check in order to decelerate, which they can do at a rate of 5 miles per hour per deceleration timestamp by simply taking their foot off the accelerator, but applying the brake. Oh my god.
Yeah, and the fact that this is, again, everything is 1/10 of a second. I'm like, how am I accelerating, 50 miles per hour in a second, essentially?
Yeah. It's a very, future car. That's how.
Yeah, future car.
Future car. Or future trike, because we always forget that there are trikes in this game.
Yes, there are. I like that they call them trikes.
Yeah, they're trikes.
Instead of, motorcycles or cycles, they're trikes.
Well, no, I mean, motorcycles are motorcycles. They have both. They have 2-wheeled things and 3-wheeled things. So there's 2 kinds of trikes. There's regular trikes and reverse trikes.
And preschool trikes.
There's big wheels. And pogo balls.
Power wheels.
And roller racers. Who's got the deepest cut?
And if you're a pedestrian, maybe you'll have moon shoes.
Or a pogo ball. Or a skip it.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna have. I'm gonna fight you with my skip it.
I put a bunch of blades on the counter. The very best part of all, there's a bunch of knives on this ball.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep, my buddy takes up 2 grenade equivalents. So,
I'm thinking about 80s toys. Thanks, Car Wars.
Yay, Car Wars. So, yeah, so there's a bunch of charts as well that are within the charts. Again, I love nested charts in any game that's chart heavy, so that you have a whole chart that tells you what you're rolling and how much of a penalty or bonus you get to your roll for maneuvering. And then within that chart, you have another roll that you make that tells you which subchart to go through, and then within that subchart, there is another chart that tells you what type of that failure you do. So there's an entire, alright, you have to roll to see your maneuver. Okay, I roll this. Alright, you fail. Now roll on this chart. Alright, the fail result was a skid. Alright, go to the skid chart. What type of skid did you do?
Okay, so on the skid chart, you can either follow a goblin into the tunnels or go back to the balloon with Dr. Ezra.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna follow the goblin, but I'm gonna keep my finger on this. Yeah. So you've got things like a minor skid, or a moderate skid where, you've just got, some light brown marks.
You got that heavy skid where you got to wash do your own laundry this time, because if your mom does it, then she's going to be curious.
Thank you, Car Wars.
This game has made me a child again, because it is so 80s.
Yeah, I have regressed down to talking about skid marks on underwear and skippets.
All I can think about right now is how Little Caesars used to have big square pizzas.
Yeah, man, you get that Bigfoot pizza?
That's it, the Bigfoot.
Yeah, you get that shit. That's goody.
Or the pepperoni crazy bread. What happened to you, Little Caesars? You used to have so many stupid options, and now you just have that $5 pizza.
Yeah. It was a simpler time.
I'm gonna pour out a little for the death of Little Caesars' franchise days when they were still trying.
Back when they had, I don't know, anything besides catering to the poorest of people.
They had a little bit of that joie de vivre. Now they have nothing but malaise.
Ah, yes.
Alright, so back on topic, Car Wars. It's a game we kind of read.
It's certainly a game.
What's that chart on the back for?
It's for moving!
Oh, there's one right there. That's your character creation sheet. That's the vehicle planning sheet, which you use to build your car. It keeps obsessive details of how much things cost, how much they weigh, how many spaces they occupy on your car. Oh, we should talk about that, actually.
You basically have an Excel spreadsheet
Yes.
as your character sheet.
Yeah. Or, a really good example of how to develop a car in this game is to draw a rectangle that's shaped like a car, and then fill it full of squares, like one of those BattleTech, remember those?
Yeah.
Remember BattleTech, the game where it was like your vehicle had a whole bunch of heat sinks and armored points and so on? That's what the cars look like. They look like a bunch of rectangles. They're like, I have 10 side armor and 3 top armor, and my tires have 3 armor each.
Yeah, so you can either make an Excel spreadsheet, or you get a little vehicle record sheet that's basically just I had an MS Paint and wanted to draw a car, so you have one big rectangle and then 4 rectangles where the wheels would be.
Yeah, you know how your wheels on your car extend out beyond the front and back of your car?
Yeah.
You have that kind of car. That kind that's basically what even does that?
I think that He-Man vehicle did that.
Oh, yeah, with his weird oblong wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they like did a little flap and roll back.
Donk, donk.
God, that thing looked like it sucked to ride around.
Welcome back to the 80s.
Here we are again. Bringing it around. No, but seriously, no car looks like that. Those wheels should be inside the body.
Yeah, but at least if you're doing a creation on the vehicle record sheet, then
You get an idea of what you're looking at. What you're looking at is a license plate with 4 Legos adjacent.
Yeah. So, at least it doesn't just look like an Excel spreadsheet, though, because the other version is to just have line items, and every line item is then by cost, weight, spaces, and then you have total weight, spaces left, and a note section. Mm-hmm. And it is just, alright, do a spreadsheet for making a character, and then I will go over your spreadsheet and see if everything is in order.
You know what I found was a weird addition to this game? The big detailed section on spellcasters in the back.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. There's no spellcasters in this game, although they really would have improved it.
Yeah, that totally would have been better. You know, if I could have been an anthropomorphic bird and a wizard, this game would have been way better.
That would fix it.
Fix it.
Let's do a homebrew. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's develop our own game that's called Path Cars, and we add anthropomorphic birds and furry men and wizards to it.
Yeah, no, we're gonna make Road Finder.
Road Finder. That's it. That's our new game.
Yeah! Watch out for that coming soon to nowhere.
Then we'll review it and hate it because it's gonna be terrible.
So one of the other things you also have in here is helicopters.
I almost feel like the helicopter part of this book is for the bad guys. Like, it's a whole bunch of detailed rules about how to build and play helicopters, but if you have one, aren't you basically breaking the game?
Essentially, at that point, you're just sort of cheating.
Yeah.
When you said that they had spellcasters in the back, I almost assumed you meant that they were talking about helicopters, because helicopters are the wizards of this game, and that they just straight up get to go, you know what, fuck you, I don't play your game.
Yeah, although they are incredibly dangerous to be in. The crash charts for helicopters are horrifying.
Well, yeah, if you actually crash in your helicopter, you are done.
Well, not just that, but the chance to crash is ridiculous, because it's the same chart. Roll 2d6 if someone hits you in the rotors. On a 2 through 7, you're fine. On an 8 through 12, your rotors stop working, and you drop like a stone from the sky.
Yeah, except you're generally never going to get shot, because most people's guns are like, what is this? It can fire to the left of me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm above you. What do you have for that? Kind of nothing.
Jumps.
Great.
I can get on a jump.
I can point myself out of the vehicle and shoot at you with my own handgun.
Based on my experience playing Twisted Metal, my guess is that what you do is you drive into the garage of the ice cream factory, and then it launches you from the top, from the empty ice cream cone, and you get sweet air, and you can shoot the helicopter before landing in a nearby tar pit.
Probably.
Why not?
I mean, I'm not saying you don't do that.
Also, you're playing as a evil clown in an ice cream truck.
Maybe you are. I'm playing as the Grim Reaper on a motorcycle.
Is that a thing?
Hell yeah,
I never played that. I played a different one called Vigilante 8, which
was the Balls version of Twisted Metal.
Yeah, but it had way better characters. It was like all weird 70s throwback goofballs.
No way, man. Twisted Metal had Axel, which was just a dude with 2 giant tires.
Yeah, but Vigilante 8 had the woman who was half woman, half robot, all woman.
Yeah. So yeah, the helicopter crash table is essentially unless you roll like a 2 and just veer, you're dead. You just explode.
Well, you may ask yourself, what about parachutes? But unfortunately, parachutes are 7 grenade equivalents.
It takes 2 people to carry a parachute, so one guy gets to deploy it, and then you kill the other guy.
Partial design oversight on their part. I don't know what they were thinking exactly. It just seems cruel.
In addition, they have a very, very small area for peculiar equipment, which includes hang gliders, just in case you wanted to get all the power of a helicopter, but without any of the armor.
Oh yeah, also a car that is a helicopter. That's the last thing that's in there. It's called like a grasshopper or something. And it's a helicopter that is a car that is a helicopter. It
is Inspector Gadget's car,
or the cars from Mask.
Yeah.
80s.
Fucking Mask. Fucking Inspector Gadget.
Mask. Yeah. Mask was just yet another one of those 80s shows where they had a trash can robot. like remember that when C3 or R2-D2 was so popular that every show had to have a trash can robot?
Plus, it's so easy to draw. You're like, I'll just draw some box that comes
oval,
near you.
Throw some eyes on it, have it say things like, hello, master, beep, boop, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Okay. In addition to that, you've got a lot of scenario stuff in the back, like we had sort of mentioned, that town protection stuff.
Yeah.
But it gives you a lot of things like, alright, maybe you're fighting against motorcycle gangs on the road, or maybe you're trying to do a fight in a city, and you're driving through the city streets.
There's a section on the trucker code.
Yeah, there is a code of conduct for dueling, as opposed to if you're just fighting a motorcycle gang.
Yep. So there's surviving out in the world, and then there's fighting with your car for money. There's 2 different things. And they actually tend to boil up together, because a lot of the time, your fights out on the road will earn you prestige, which is one of the XP equivalents in the game, if you happen to be fighting near a news helicopter.
Yeah, if someone is filming what you're doing, then you earn prestige, and the more prestige you have, the better...
races you can get into, yeah.
So you can make more money with more prestige and so on.
Yep.
And, while the game is super deadly, there is a way out of that. So the book says, hey, this game is super deadly. If you don't like that because you have someone wants to keep the same character instead of just playing it like a tabletop war game.
And the game is incredulous that you would want to do that.
They're like, well, I guess if you want to do that. The 2 options are you can coddle them like a baby and make sure no one dies, or you can use this cloning system.
11th hour cloning edition. It's never mentioned before or after in the book, but apparently everyone has a bunch of clone slugs on hand, like the fucking Venture Brothers, and you can just get a clone of yourself made and reload it with your memory every couple of weeks.
However, it is super expensive because they're like, look, if you want to live, then we're just going to take all of your money.
Yeah.
So... it's an option for the GM who's like, alright, fine, you get to come back as your same character, but I'm basically taking your car away, get a stock car now.
Yeah, and I guess you get to keep your dumb guy, except he lost some of his memories because last time you recorded your memories was a month ago.
Yeah.
But then, right after that, never mentions cloning again.
No.
It's a super complicated, crazy thing that it exists at all. It's like, why would you even need cloning in a world where human overpopulation has become a huge issue? It's like, we got cloning machines. We can keep these drivers that we're killing off because they're killing each other alive.
No, it's again one of those things where you're trying to make this, pre-apocalypse, Mad Maxy type setting where it's like, all the streets outside of cities aren't safe because of these gangs, and there's all these horrible shortages of food and resources and this and that, and then you're like, Also, we've got clones and lasers and power plants that are insanely useful.
That's a Rifts thing too. Remember, Rifts always has those. Everything in Rifts doesn't worry about gas because it runs on a 20-year micro-fission nuclear power plant.
Yeah, I've just got a tiny nuclear power plant in my motorcycle.
Runs on unicorns and rainbow farts,
which is fine because it's Rifts, so I could probably get a big old bag of unicorn farts down at the corner store.
Yeah. Well, in this game, it's got that same issue where cloning just doesn't fit into their post-apocalyptic scheme. You wouldn't want more humans. The whole reason that gladiatorial death combat comes into existence is because overpopulation is crowding people out. So they're like, here, and again, it's bread and circuses.
Yeah, it's not something that's like, only the ridiculous elite that lord over the people can get this. It's, you are some schmuck, like, arena driver, and you can clone yourself. You're like, really?
The other one I really liked, for the option for how to keep your players happy, is to have them play as a club. Like, you play as a bike, or as a car club, and they all work on maintaining one car, and when one of your 150-pound drivers dies, another 150-pound driver just gets in the car and keeps going.
Yeah, so you get to keep your car, which is essentially your character, and then another guy just shows up and drives it.
Yeah. So I like that. That's amusing to me, because I've always liked to play D&D that way. Where like literally your character dies and you're like, oh no, Conan the Cleric, what happened? And another guy pops up, hello, I am Conan the Cleric's brother. I would like it if you would call me Conan the Cleric.
I am Bonan the Cleric.
But you can call me Conan. I'm the same level as him, surprisingly.
It's super weird. Yeah. Anyway.
Alright, so, hey John.
Hey Jeff.
What would you say is your favorite thing about Car Wars?
My favorite thing about Car Wars is, I'm gonna go with the grenade equivalents. It's just the funniest, best thing for me, and I know they had to do it somehow, and I want to say that it's intentional. They were like, alright, you get 6 cubes of storage space, and they went, well, that sounds dumb. What takes up 1 cube? I don't know, a grenade? Great, let's just say they can hold 6 grenades worth of something.
I'm trying to figure out what they might have been playing in 1985 that would give them that idea. Although this is like the 5th printing of this, so this game's way older than that.
Yeah, this came out originally in like 81.
That sounds video gamey. That's like Diablo, where it's like, oh, what takes up 1 inventory slot? A flawed emerald.
Alright, so this sword is 4 gems in size. That doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, it's that kind of resource management. So it is weird, yeah. Alright.
But I like it because instead of saying, you've got 6 squares of, storage that you can put things in, it's nice that they went that little extra mile to put that flavor in there.
Yeah. Yeah, they could have said, what they could have gone with is something like, shoulder pads made out of tires. Your character can carry 6 tubs of crazy mohawk grease.
Yeah. They could have done that.
Yeah. You're allowed to carry 6 faceplates clearly made out of old radios. Or faceplates made out of old radio equivalents.
Yeah. So, I'm glad that they did that. That's good for them.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing, Jeff, about Car Wars?
I like the goofity-ass setting. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. I love the idea of Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana going fuck off and seceding from the Union. And not, by the way, let's make this clear, not as a little nation of southern, folk, but rather as Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. 3 new countries.
Yeah, they didn't actually just go, we're the new Confederacy. They went, no, each one of us is now our own thing.
Again, the result of Oklahoma seceding from the Union would be Oklahoma petitioning to join the Union. They have some grain, and they have a bunch of abandoned cities. There you go.
And the thing is, they secede, and then the next thing is there was a grain blight, and you're like, Oklahoma, you're done. Yeah. You're just done now.
That's what you guys had. You had some lead mines you had to abandon, and you had grain.
And now you don't even have that.
Okay. So I like the setting because I'm a sucker for funny post-apocalypses. Yeah. Or I guess in this case, not quite an apocalypse. Like, there wasn't a big bomb that went off at any point.
No.
Shit just got gross, and thanks Obama, and next thing you know, everyone's fighting from cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you say is your least favorite thing about Car Wars? City of Violence.
If I had to pick my least favorite thing, I'm not even gonna say the charts within charts. I'm gonna say my least favorite thing is probably the shallowness to the creation of a character. Like, even if you are going to just a tabletop war game setting, and I understand that they're pretty much doing that, the fact that you couldn't have anything besides a generic cardboard cutout of a driver, like, they're all the same size, they all weigh exactly the same, they all do this, and I go, if there was some reason to be different, I would like that better if you had some sort of way to go, alright, my guy weighs more, but he's got a better driving score. Anything to make it so that the character driving it didn't just feel like
three spaces
worth of equipment.
Yeah,
and that's what it was.
Yeah, it's and 150 pounds. You have to know, because that's part of the weight of your car calculations.
Yeah, you're 3 spaces and 150 pounds worth of equipment for your car, which is your character. I
understand that, because it's easy to build a car that carries more than 2 people in it. You build one of those big trucks that's got a bunch of turrets in it, you're like, oh, I'm playing as 10 guys.
Yeah, and at that point, you're just like, what do you have? 9 gunners.
Yeah. So, it is sort of odd. I can see that. I can see where you'd want to have that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the future editions do tack on more character creation so you can get attached to your character.
Yeah, I assume that later editions probably skewed towards RPG elements more. I might be wrong, but
zero research. Again, we have no idea what apparent Santa homeless man...
Yeah,
Steve Jackson.
There is no professionalism to this.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, your least favorite thing about Car Wars?
The lack of wizards. We discussed this earlier. Okay, so I really didn't like the charts within charts, because I sat down to read this game and was just glazing over it, and no, I have to go back and read that page, even though it's all charts. And I'd go back and read them, and then go to the next page, and it'd be all charts, and I'd be like, skip ahead, looking for some story. Wait, no, I have to read all these charts.
Yeah, because unfortunately the charts are everything.
Yeah.
Like, that is the game, is those charts.
And I don't like charts very much, and...
That's not true. You shut your whore mouth.
You're right. Who am I to say this? This is my 27th role-playing game review. I have to love charts.
You like Palladium. You love charts.
I love charts so much, but I like random stupid charts.
Yeah, it's true.
These are some fine ones.
These are fixed charts, not random charts.
That's true. There's no chance on any of these charts to discover an unusual smell.
Yeah, there's no chance that I'm going to become, I don't know, a
badger.
phobic of badgers.
I will not start gaining power by eating Twinkies, but only at night by reading any of these charts. No, you're right. It's just too charty. And the reason that it's so disappointing to me is yes, a person who does like charts quite a bit, is that I was looking at this going, oh, a car game. I bet you get in there and you slam to the left and slam to the right and shoot at your enemies and so on. No, you meticulously chart every tiny angle of incidence change that your car makes, every tick of speed that you're going. Everything is ridiculously detailed and organized to the point where moving your car around is not there's no, what's the word I'm looking for?
Fun?
Well, okay, fun's part of it, but there's nothing to grab onto. There's no sense, there's no, verisimilitude, really.
Well, there's no adventure in this.
There's no weight to it. You're just describing a bunch of numbers. It's like just firing math at each other.
Yeah,
it's like playing Scorched Earth. It's not
you look at Car Wars, the idea of Car Wars, and you think, alright, super awesome Mad Maxy action film. I've watched so many things where, like, Bond is shooting machine guns out of the front of his car. This is gonna be great. But it turns every little thing you do into a roll or a chart, such that it's no longer an action game, as, like you said, it is just sort of a math game.
Which is, again, this is basically like Warhammer 40k, but you play as one car instead of, a big army. That's why, Warhammer 40k doesn't have any rules for stunting, because then everyone would just stunt all the time, because it would win the games. So I understand that in a war game you don't have that element of kind of, visceral was the word I was looking for, by the way, ramming into each other and so on. There's none of that. Everything's just detailed and meticulous and predictable.
Yeah, if you actually hit someone in this game, it is just as likely to kill you as it is the other guy.
Oh, very much so.
And so you don't get those scenes where, like, 2 guys are racing and one is, like, trying to hit him and knock him off the road. Because if the other guy's like, I ram into you, and then he goes, fuck, I died.
Yeah. So, would you play Car Wars?
I would not. If someone sat down with some graph paper and were like, here's your car, and you can play a thing. You can even have this stock car, so you don't have to go through the boring tedium of spreadsheeting out what your car looks like, I would still refuse, because I just don't want to math out how I'm doing everything.
I feel like Oh, I'm sorry. I'm waiting for you to ask me, but not really.
No,
Yeah.
I don't care if you would play this. The answer is no.
Oh, hang on. I feel like I would probably play this, especially if someone brought, like, the meat of this game to the table. Like, if they were like, alright, I actually have the deluxe set that came with miniatures and little sections of freeway and little buildings and stuff, and I put all this out, and yeah, it's super meticulous and detailed, but at least you're playing, it'd be like playing with a museum piece.
Huh.
It'd be like, would you like to use this sextant? And I'd be like, well, I don't really need to navigate by the stars, and it's really complicated and stupid, but oh my god, I want to hold that thing. That's what this would be like for me. I'd have a kind of it belongs in the museum feel, but I really want to try it once. I feel the same way if someone were to be like, hey man, you want to play Twilight Imperium, the board game with 1 million parts?
Hey, except I own Twilight Imperium, and that shit is fun as hell. Fuck you.
Have you actually played it?
I have.
Ooh, alright,
Ooh.
great, well... But I feel the same way, though. I mean, if it's just, here's a game with 1 million parts. Do you want to play this? No. But it's really weird. Alright, just to say I did.
Yeah, no, Twilight Imperium is definitely one of those games where even if you don't like the basic premise of it, just being able to say, yeah, I sat down and played Twilight Imperium once is...
It's the same reason that you and I went to that Nickelback concert.
Yeah, just to be able to say, I went to a Nickelback concert, and I listened to one song of Nickelback.
Half of one song of Nickelback. We walked out halfway through Photograph. That's what this would be. We'd be like, I want to say I had the experience. And you know what? I almost regret having that experience at Nickelback, because all it's ever turned into is me saying, I went to a Nickelback show once, and then vigorously retreating from that statement like a politician with a bad email.
Just this podcast, every time I do it makes me laugh.
I wish it made people laugh. Other than us.
Oh, yeah.
Sad.
Oh, womp womp.
Made ourselves sad right at the end of this thing. So,
Yeah.
anything else you want to say about Car Wars?
Don't do it.
Yeah, I support Car Peace.
Yeah. Just, Car Wars. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Huh.
Say it again.
Good God. As always, this has been System Mastery, the podcast. You can find us at our home website of systemmasterypodcast.com. We are also on iTunes and Stitcher under the name System Mastery, or email us at systemmastery@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter or Facebook, where we are unusually named Nathan Bradley on Facebook. So if you simply go to Facebook and look up Nathan Bradley, that's us, and you can send us all kinds of messages about this role-playing game that you like, that you want us to review, and we'll totally understand.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Our Twitter handle is The Real Tanya Harding at Twitter, so just find us there. And tweet about role-playing games at 80s, by the way.
Yeah, and the 80s.
In the 80s. So, if there's any role-playing game you'd like to hear us review, or if you just want to tell us why we're right or wrong about something, feel free to stop by any of those things, or all the real ones anyway, and drop us a line. Thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely day.